It's International Disability Awareness Day. So let's talk about the fun aspects of being disabled. Oh, is that really what I'm doing? I just got myself sad now. So because it's Disability Awareness International whatever day, and because I realized recently that it's been about over a year since I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia, I wanted to do a little video on how I've managed to actually improve my horrible fibromyalgia symptoms. Yay! I swear this is going to be a fun, upbeat video, guys. I forget I can't remember exactly when I was diagnosed because, you know, brain fog and all that. The time when I was diagnosed, my symptoms were so bad, I was concerned that I had some kind of really early onset dementia or brain damage or something just awful going on with my brain. I always thought something is seriously wrong with me. I couldn't remember things that I did hours earlier. I would forget whole conversations with people. There are countless times I would just take out my phone and start staring at it because I couldn't remember what I needed my phone for, and I could barely even read. That was one of the big reasons I had to quit the work that I was doing when I started getting sick, was because I couldn't understand scientific literature. I used to be able to understand scientific literature, and then I would be stuck at work reading the same paragraph over and over again thinking, oh my god, why can't I understand the words I'm reading? So my symptoms were very severe, both cognitively and physically. I just had, you know, excruciating pain all through my body. I feel a sensation of just feeling like there was bruises all over me, but without seeing any visible bruises and without there being any, you know, physical trauma that would have caused that sensation. And this went on for like 4 or 5 years before I got a diagnosis. And for those 4 or 5 years, my symptoms were basically just constant and horrible. And now, I definitely still have periods where, like, I'll have bad brain fog. There'll be certain times when, like, I know I'm just gonna have a bad day and I realize I can't really do anything that involves thinking. There's times when I just really shouldn't drive. I shouldn't try to make any important decisions because my brain just will not be functioning right. It's a very kind of frightening feeling because it just feels like you don't have control over your own mind. But I am so grateful that I don't have that every day anymore. That was what was really starting to, like, terrify me before I got my diagnosis, was the fact that I thought I had, like, some kind of brain damage. It was scary. And my physical symptoms, I still have I have other things than just fibromyalgia, so unfortunately I have physical symptoms on top of the fibro, but for the most part I might only have bad fibro flare-ups like maybe 1 to 3 times a week versus every day, and often those flare-ups are pretty, like, you know, minimized in the terms of how long they last. So that has really been a huge improvement for me. And I do want to share with you guys how I've been able to make such drastic progress, because the things that I've done are things that anybody can do. If you're watching this and you're feeling like, oh my god, my symptoms are horrible, and feel like there's no way it could possibly get better, I really didn't feel like there was anything I could do to get better, especially because my doctors repeatedly kept telling me there's nothing we can do to help you. And every medication I tried just didn't do anything. I was even on, you know, one of those awful immune suppressing drugs that you inject into yourself, and it was horribly painful and it didn't work. Yay! But yeah, over the years I've just tried like literally anything that might possibly work. So I want to go through some of the things that absolutely do not work first, because when you're in a lot of pain and you're suffering, it is very easy to be taken advantage of. There's a whole industry out there of people who are trying to take money from you because there aren't a lot of good answers of what to do when you have fibromyalgia. So there's a lot of supplements out there that people will suggest that you should take. It's important to keep in mind there are no supplements that are proven to do anything to help fibromyalgia. I've seen some really weird shit on the internet. There's recently, somebody was trying to like do a Kickstarter for some documentary that was clearly just propaganda. It was promoting some doctor who's scamming patients by telling them to take high doses of a decongestant every day. And the only reason that some people might in some way benefit, or at least feel like they're benefiting from taking a decongestant every day, is the fact that it's got a stimulant in it. And one of the, you know, big issues of people who have fibro is feeling fatigued and exhausted all the time. So yeah, if you were to start snorting coke, maybe your fatigue would go away, but that doesn't mean it's curing your fibromyalgia, and it doesn't mean it's good for you. Don't snort coke. It's not going to help. And not that I've tried that, but like, even just taking caffeine on a regular basis, it'll make you feel better for a little while, but then you will most likely crash and feel like shit for a week or more. So you're really just, you're feeling better temporarily at the expense of your own future health. So that being said, I do sometimes, when there are days where I absolutely have to be awake and have to be functional, I do occasionally take a caffeine supplement that is strictly just caffeine. I even cut it in half so it's not a full dose, so it's basically like a cup of coffee, because with my stomach issues I can't drink coffee. So the amount of caffeine that I would recommend, if any, is 1 to 2 cups of coffee, the equivalent of 1 to 2 cups of coffee. Anything more, you're just gonna be screwing yourself over in the long run. You could cause heart problems. It's not good stuff. Energy drinks, absolutely, you should not drink. The high amount of sugar is bad for you. If you get the ones that don't have sugar and have a ton of artificial sweeteners, that stuff's neurotoxic. It is very bad for you. It'll make you gain weight. It increases your risk of stroke and various other neurological disorders. Don't drink energy drinks. And any supplements that people are trying to sell you that are targeted for fibromyalgia, sorry to pick on whatever company this is, but I have tried probably everything targeted for fibromyalgia just because I've been so desperate to get better over the years. And this is supposed to reduce uric acid in your blood. There's no evidence that fibromyalgia has anything to do with uric acid in your blood, but this was specifically being sold as a supplement for fibromyalgia. And it's garbage. I took it for months and now it's just been sitting in my kitchen to use as an example of why I shouldn't buy stupid shit. And other supplements people will suggest will be something like, you know, turmeric with curcumin in it because it reduces inflammation in your body. Fibromyalgia is not an inflammatory disease. If anybody is selling you something and saying you should take this because it'll help your symptoms by reducing inflammation, they don't know what they're talking about. If you do have another, you know, physical illness that is causing inflammation, then it might help you with that. So you absolutely should take care of any other medical issues you have, but there is no supplement that is going to help you with fibromyalgia. The best thing you can do is try to eat healthy. A lot of times people with fibro will have different gastrointestinal issues, or it's very common to just have other medical issues when you have fibromyalgia. Some people have food intolerances or food allergies, so doing something like an elimination diet and just kind of experimenting with certain things and seeing like, oh, if I eat a lot of dairy, do I start to feel sick? Or if I cut gluten out of my diet, do I start to feel better? You know, things like that can actually be helpful. Personally, even though I tested negative for celiacs, I do have a gluten intolerance, and I know this because if I eat a lot of pasta or anything that contains gluten, my whole body will hurt. I don't need a doctor to tell me that it's bad for me to eat gluten, because if I have even just like a bowl of pasta, I will feel a lot of pain. So there's some common sense stuff that like you can kind of like figure out on your own. And of course there's going to be people out there who will tell you you have to absolutely follow this diet because, well, this is what worked for me, so you have to do exactly this and that'll help with your fibromyalgia. Everybody's different, so my diet works for me. You really need to experiment for yourself and see what's going to work for you. Again, anybody who tells you you have to do X, Y, Z, do this exactly, they don't know what they're talking about. You really do need to figure some things out for yourself, and diet is one of those things where there is no exclusive fibromyalgia diet. It's just, you know, try to eat healthy, fresh fruits and vegetables, lean protein. Just try to eat foods that are good for yourself, and if you notice a correlation between certain foods and your symptoms, then it might be a good idea to, you know, do a food journal, do an elimination diet, things like that. For me, I think the biggest trigger for my fibro symptoms are emotional stress, and for years that really just kind of sucked for me because I was in a position where I couldn't really do much about the things that were causing me stress. I had very little control over certain things that were going on in my life, and I just kind of had to accept the fact that I had a lot of stress or things that were stressing me out, and just kind of had to get through that period, and things are a lot better for me now because I'm not under as much stress. So of course it's frustrating when you're in a situation like that and you realize that you have limited control over what's going on. So really the best thing to do is focus on the things that you are in control of. You are always in control of how you respond to situations. So that's really the best thing that you can be working on. Learning meditation techniques, deep breathing techniques, things that will help calm you down. There are breathing techniques that can help you actually slow your heart rate. I know I really fucking hated every time my doctors would tell me to, like, oh, do meditation and yoga. It's like, that's not a cure. And it's not, but for me, meditating every day actually has really helped reduce my levels of stress. It's a really obnoxious thing to have medical professionals refusing to give you actual real help and telling you to meditate, but meditation is one of the few things that is free. You don't have to spend any money on it. You can just do it and it will make a big difference. And you know, your attitude with how you view and approach your illness is also very important. You know, for me, it took me a really long time to accept the fact that I am disabled. I am permanently disabled. I'm not sort of disabled. I'm not occasionally disabled. I'm disabled. And I have certain physical limitations that I have to live by. And I need help. I can't do certain things for myself. And being able to accept that and accept help from people is another big reason as to why my symptoms have improved. And now I can actually do more for myself. But I needed a lot of help, especially when I was feeling really sick all the time. And it's a hard thing because of the fact that fibromyalgia is an invisible illness. There might be people in your life who are questioning, oh, are you really that sick? Like, do you really feel that bad? Are you trying to get attention? Like, are you just trying to get out of doing work? And for people like that, the best thing you can do is try to educate them and help them understand what you're going through. If they can't understand or refuse to try to understand what you're going through, and you can cut them out of your life, I would highly suggest cutting toxic people out of your life. I know that can sound very harsh, and in certain cases, like if you have to deal with a toxic coworker, maybe it's not possible to avoid those people. But I know for me personally, I saw some of the biggest improvements in my physical and mental health when I just completely cut contact with some just very toxic, negative people. And the fact that I have very positive, helpful, supportive people in my life, I know is a huge reason as to why my symptoms have gotten a lot better. So that is really a big thing, and that can take, it's not an easy decision to, decide to stop talking to a certain friend or a certain relative, or in an extreme case, maybe you need to change jobs because your boss is verbally abusive or is, making you do things that you can't do. And that's not an easy life decision to make, but you have to think about your long-term health. Is the job you have worth the suffering that it's causing you? Even if you have to maybe switch industries or take a pay cut to get a different job where you don't have to have like a horrible boss or abusive coworkers, maybe that is actually the best thing for you. And it's a hard decision to make, and I absolutely hated when I quit my job. That was the most depressing period of my life because I really loved working in a lab, but I was killing my body. Like, I loved my job, but I was miserable because of my job. You see how that doesn't really make sense? So as hard as it was, that was clearly the best decision for me to make in long term. So unfortunately, I can't give you any easy, just do these things and your symptoms are going to get better. The things I'm talking about are, challenging decisions that you might have to make in terms of how you live your life, what kind of work you do, what kind of people you surround yourself with, just, how you eat and exercise. And that's why, companies make millions of dollars selling junk like this that it claims to be like a quick fix for, your symptoms. The reality is there's no quick fix. It's hard work, and it takes time for you to see the results, to see any positive results when you've started to make some of these changes. You're not going to immediately get better overnight just because you started eating healthier and exercising. It's going to take time, and it's a hard process, but it is definitely worth it. I would say that my fibromyalgia symptoms are about like 80% better than what they used to be, and that to me is worth all of the work that I had to do to get there. So don't lose hope, don't feel bad, whatever your situation is. There are probably things that you can do to improve. It's just there are no easy fixes, and you really want to be careful to avoid anybody who's telling you that there is some kind of easy fix, because they're probably trying to take advantage of you in some way. I hope some of that was helpful and not just like super depressing. If you guys have any questions on anything I said that you want me to go into like more detail, or anything else related to fibromyalgia, invisible disabilities, chronic illness, all that fun stuff, please feel free to leave comments or questions. I was thinking in the future I might do a post on, I was thinking in the future I might do a video on how to, you know, manage relationships with being in chronic pain, because that is a very difficult subject. Healthy people have a hard time understanding chronic pain, and I've had to deal with that in relationships a lot, and I have learned kind of, you know, how to make it work. So if that's something people would be interested in, please let me know, because I've been toying with that idea, but I'm not really sure how many people care or need that information. So but yeah, please feel free to leave comments, questions, whatever, and make sure to like and subscribe, and I hope this was helpful.